Hey guys, welcome to our road trip. This is some footage of leaving the LA area, headed over to Lancaster, California on the way to Death Valley. We repacked Scott's car so it has all of our camping stuff in there, and we decided to stop at Lancaster on the way to Death Valley because Scott's dad told us that it was the poppy season there. And apparently this is also where the poppy scene from Wizard of Oz is shot. I think just in general in Lancaster. We initially came because of the conservation of the poppies, or poppy conservatory that's there, but because of the change in weather pattern and because the poppies there are all wild, they didn't have a big bloom this year. But this field that we found kind of nearby the poppy conservatory it looks like it's planted, and it was still super nice to hold hands and twirl around and give kisses and walk around in. Mwah! I love you so much. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Yeah, it was really beautiful, and here they are. These are the poppies. Look at them. Aren't they great? Don't you just love them? Don't you want to frolic in them? They're not for sale, but just look at them. Amazing. And then we made our way to Death Valley, and I'll tell you guys, if you're planning to go to Death Valley, make sure you stock up because there are not stores within an hour drive from Death Valley, and there is no food source at all within Death Valley except for the restaurants that are very, very expensive. So if you're planning to go to Death Valley, just be prepared. We did wind up camping at a free campsite called Emigrant Camp. There's, I think, 3 free campsites in Death Valley. This one was the one that looked the dopest because it had a restroom and running water in it, which is really, really important when you're in the desert. On our first day, we made some breakfast at camp on the picnic tables that they have there, which again was really nice. And we decided to check out the Ube Hibi crater. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right. What's really cool about the Ube Hibi crater is that it's not a meteor crater, but it's actually created by volcanic steam. Roughly paraphrasing, guys, the magma from the volcano touched on some water and caused a steam and gas explosion, and that is how the crater formed. I'm not a scientist, I'm just kind of trying to paraphrase from the NPS website. But anyway, for our first hike, we did the 1.5 mile loop around the crater, and then there's this little crater next to it that's called Little Ube Hibi. And there's Scott walking along the rim. I looked at the rim and I was like, oh no, that looks really dangerous. And Scott was like, that's okay, I'll try it. But it was a really nice hike, and we had some heart-shaped peanut butter and jelly sandwiches after. And then we went to check out the sand dunes, and holy guacamole, this is when I started to feel like it's hot. It's hot. It was like 104 degrees. What do you think of these desert sand dunes? Real or fake?
Yeah, real.
Real?
I'm gonna say real.
Oh, that's interesting because it's fake. Just kidding. No, it was really, really hot. This is at Mosaic Canyon, which was a pretty short hike. It was only like 3.8 miles. But it was so hot. It was a lot of fun at some points because we could just slide down the canyons, and it was super beautiful. But because it was so steaming hot for me, I was just like, I'm dying. I'm not gonna make it out of Death Valley. But we made it out alive and well. The next day we woke up early at like 5 a.m. to catch the sunrise at Zabriskie Point, which was really beautiful. It looked like chocolate vanilla swirl ice cream. And of course there was all these people with their cameras, which, sorry, no shame. I just was like, okay, vibes. And then we did the Golden Canyon Gower Gulch Loop Trail, which I want to say was about 7 miles altogether. And this also kicked my ass because it was so hot. And there was one point, so we went the Gower Gulch side first, And that was all, not all shady. It had more shade than the Golden Canyon one, but it was all pretty much flat and downhill. But then coming up, this is the Golden Canyon part, and it was much more steep, and it was sunnier, hence me dying. This is from the next day. We just did a few out and back kind of scenic drive things. This is at Badwater Basin, and we went over to Artist's Palette and the Artist's Drive and saw all of the pretty colors on the mountainside. They weren't as vibrant as I had hoped, but they were still breathtaking. So I was overall very happy with just how nice and pretty everything was. And then we made our way over to our next stop, which was Vegas, before we headed to Grand Canyon. And I'll be honest, guys, Vegas isn't really my speed, but I had never been there, so I did want to stop and spend at least one night and see those big city lights. And it was not at all what I thought it was going to be like. I don't know what I had in my head, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of Singapore, just in how like hyper manicured everything was. Not obviously because of all of the casinos that they have in Singapore. But anyway, so we wanted to find food. We got in kind of late, and if you guys know, we are on a budget, so we found a Chipotle nearby. And I had wanted to check out the Venetian. Wow, I was in heaven. And there happened to have been a Chipotle in the Venetian. I didn't know that it was this gigantic Mondo Mall. I had only seen pictures of this part where they have like the indoor gondolas and the ceiling painted to look like the day sky. This was at like 10 p.m. guys, and I was just wowed. I mean, I'm really not that big into shopping malls and stuff like that, but the whole concept of this like very big fancy hotel with a mall and a river and gondola rides inside of it was just like, wow. So I actually had a really good time in Vegas. Again, we didn't do the whole casinos and strippers thing. Just kidding. No, really just kidding. We just had to walk through the casino to get to where we parked. But it was really fun to walk around a little bit and just kind of get the vibe. And it was really nice. It was a lot nicer than I was expecting. And I only saw, much to my dismay, guys, I only saw one Elvis impersonator, and he didn't even look like Elvis. I know that they're not supposed to, but I thought I would see at least like 5. Also, if you guys haven't noticed, Scott did shave his face before this, and so if you've never seen Scott without a beard, this is your chance, guys. Make sure you keep your eyes peeled throughout the videos to just bask in his unbearded face. And I know that our Vegas trip is kind of not living up to other people's expectations of a Vegas trip, but I'll be honest, one of the main reasons I wanted to go to Vegas was to check out this donut shop, Saint Honoré, and it's a couture donut shop. I follow the owner on YouTube. But honestly, it did not disappoint. Those donuts look amazing. I found true love in the Doughpolian, and I'm so excited to go back. This is the creme brulee donut. It's their signature donut, and it was really good, but I'll be honest, that Doughpolian donut just blew my little mind. And here we are on our way to Grand Canyon West. This is a little Joshua Tree forest that's right by Grand Canyon West that, of course, we had to walk through and give each other kisses at. But we found out that Grand Canyon West is on native territory, so you can't actually use your national parks pass there. So we decided not to go, to stay within budget, but we found a really cool camping spot nearby at Lake Mead, which had river access, so that's the Colorado River right there. The only downside was, similar to Death Valley, there are no stores for miles. There's a few grab and go stores with like some Hot Pockets and stuff like that, but not really anything sustainable or nice to eat. So another thing to just keep in mind to make sure that you're fully stocked and incorporate cities to your trip so that you can restock. But the spot that we found was really nice. We were really happy with it. We stayed for like 3 days before heading over to the Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon! We went to the South Rim because the North Rim was still closed for the winter. And it was so much fun. I think also because we started out in Death Valley, we were super acclimated to warm weather. So we were like, oh, this is so cool. And everybody else around us was like, I'm sweating. How are you not sweating right now? And we're just like, oh, well, we were just in like 100 and whatever degree weather. So this is great. We started off by doing the South Kaibab Trail, just out and back, and that was 6 miles, I think, altogether. So not that bad. The next day, we did do the Bright Angel Trail, which was 12 miles altogether from the trailhead to Plateau Point. And there was water at the bottom, so that was really helpful, and we stopped and had a really long snack. Here are some of the views from Bright Angel Trail, because it was a really nice trail, but wow, it was just so long. And going down was fine because we started pretty early. We went there for sunrise, and then we started hiking when it was still pretty cool out. But then when we came back after our nice long break, it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I think, and we were just like, oh, it's so hot. At least I was. I think Scott was actually handling it pretty well. But this is the lookout from Plateau Point, and we could see the Colorado River. And of course we had to hold hands and walk around and give each other kisses because that's just what we like to do. And Scott was like, don't push me over the river. And this was the creek. We stopped here and we put our feet in the water for a little while. And this is the view, guys, of the Bright Angel Trail that we went up. And I'm sure you're thinking what I was feeling, like, oh, yeah, it's not a short trail. No. There's the Plateau Point where that video was from. Those were the coyotes that we could hear from our campsite. And now it's a new day. On our last few days at Grand Canyon, we just did a few easy hikes. Yep, that's a straight drop. Yep. That's not a straight drop. I have to tell that for my mom so that she knows that I didn't actually stand that close to the edge at the Grand Canyon. There's ground beneath me in that picture, and in a lot of them there are, just in that one video there wasn't. That's why it's like, oh, this is so terrifying. But we had a really nice time doing just the rim trail. It's a really nice paved trail that goes right along the rim of the Grand Canyon, and it's really pretty. And then another day we took the buses to go to all of the different lookout points, and we hiked a little bit. We just walked like a mile here, a mile there. This one's called Hermit's Rest. It's the furthermost point, and this is one of the beautiful lookouts. We stopped over at, sorry, I don't really remember actually which one this was, but it was so breathtaking. And then we did go to Hopi Point for sunset, which is kind of the sunset spot, and you can kind of see why, because you see all of the rocks all lit up with the setting sun, and it was just incredible. And we saw a couple that I was like, oh, they know what they're doing with the camera, so we asked them to take a picture with us, and they were like, everybody always asks us, because they just have that look, you know. But wow, it's just so beautiful here. And our very last stop before we left was, of course, to say hello to old Smokey the Bear. I mean, why he doesn't wear a shirt, I don't know, but we were having a really great time, and Scott didn't even mind. I felt like I was being a little bit flirty, and he was like, I'm okay with this. Look at these googly eyes. One of his googly eyes fell off. And then we started making our way over to Sedona. We did stop in Flagstaff, and we'll talk more about that in our next video. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting us. Subscribe if you are enjoying these videos, and we'll see you soon.